project we actually learned from Liquid Fun called Sex With Me. So, what did you guys do the honors? Let's go ahead and do the work.
Sure. Okay. Can I get an object? So you open a drawer. What's next to the scissors? Weed. Sex with me is like sex with weed because anytime I try and sleep with a woman, I end up getting stoned.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. It's sticky and illegal, and a guy named Pedro sells it to me.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. You get an eighth of an inch at a time.
Sex with me is like sex with weed because for the first 2 years, I'm pretty sure I wasn't doing it right.
I like my man like I like my weed. Purchase on a street corner.
Sex with me is like weed. You can get the clean version for medicinal purposes.
Sex with me is like sex with weed because at one time I fell asleep during.
Sex with me is like sex with weed because I like to give it interesting names like Purple Shadow or Minion of Evil.
Sex with weed is like sex with weed. It's a lot better the closer to the Mexican border.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. It makes watching 2001: A Space Odyssey a lot better.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. It usually pops up on my neighbor's front lawn in the springtime.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. You can find it just rolling around in the fields in California.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. You'll be grateful you're dead.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. People always say there's better stuff you can get across the street.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. It's best when it's edible. Sex with me is like sex with weed. It's a staple of Amsterdam's red light district.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. You can't have it within 100 feet of a school zone.
Sex with me is like sex with weed. If you do it drunk, it's probably gonna get really sloppy.
Can I get a suggestion of another word, something that you wouldn't want your dog to get a hold of?
Bible!
Bible? If anybody who can, all right.
Sex with me is like sex with the Bible in every hotel in America.
Sex with me is like sex with the Bible. There's no evidence that it actually exists.
The Bible. People think it's real, but I've just been lying.
Sex with me is like sex with the Bible. It ends with some pretty awkward relationships.
Sex with me is like sex with the Bible because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are all going to be saying very different stories. Like sex with the Bible. The tide will stay high for 40 days and 40 nights.
Sex with me is like sex with the Bible. First part's pretty good, middle part's really boring, everyone skips it. Last part's...
Sex with me is like sex with the Bible. We're all still waiting for Jesus to come.
Something you would find in your grandmother's purse.
patent involved.
Sex with me is like sex with fish sticks because you can either have them hot and soft or cold and hard.
Sex with me is like fish sticks found in most Long John Silver's kitchens.
Sex with me is like sex with fish sticks. People have it when they're desperate or short in time, but they usually feel depressed after.
Sex with me is like sex with fish sticks. There's been a $1 off coupon in my wallet for about 6 months.
Sex with me is like sex with fish sticks because you're gonna have a long, thin piece of cod in your mouth.
I like my women like I like my fish sticks. 6 in one sitting.
I like my women like I like my fish sticks in the shape of dinosaurs. Let's get another suggestion. Something that you would find in a stadium.
Thermometer!
I don't go to any stadium. You show me the thermometer.
I know what temperature it is somehow.
Sex with me is like sex with the thermometer. The hotter it gets, the higher it goes.
Sex with me is like sex with a thermometer. If you break my penis open, the fluid inside.
I like my women like I like my thermometers, made in Taiwan.
Sex with me is like a thermometer. People usually choose the oral option over the anal option.
Sex with me is like sex with a thermometer. When my mom sees it, she tells me to turn it down and is very mad at me.
I like my men like I like my thermometers, ruled hazardous to your health by the FDA.
And a similar note, sex with me is like sex with thermometers. I had to stop doing it because it was causing brain damage.
Sex with me is like sex with thermometers. My grandmother bought me one in 4th grade so I could learn about science.
Sex with me is like sex with a thermometer. There's usually a nurse there and she normally tells me to hold it under my tongue for at least 2 minutes.